All right, welcome again, guys. So this is the discussion with the Vetter Scouts, those of you who've been scouting on the Vetter platform. And of course, scouting means, you're out there finding projects that are launching as ICOs, IDOs, I often just refer to them as pre-sales, and posting those on the calendar. And what we have up on the screen right now, of course, is the color-coded ranking system showing the historic success track record of a particular scout. One of the things that you guys may have noticed is just recently, it requires more of a history and more points to now get to the rank of green. Of course, green is, a pretty high ranking. If we look right here, I'll zoom in here, green's the second highest ranking. It now takes 81 points to get to the rank of green. It used to take 58. When we first started, and we set it at 58, we knew that was ridiculously low, but we did it because we wanted to reward early adopters. And we wanted to, obviously, the dApp without community posting projects, voting on projects is worthless. It becomes valuable when you have a community of people posting pre-sales, IDOs, ICOs, voting on those. And then now as a community, an individual can tap into the combined knowledge base, the resource of everybody. And so instead of one person having to invest 1,000 hours in a month, to find and research projects, they now can invest a few hours, and collectively we all benefit tremendously. That's the value of all this, right? We need people posting and voting and vetting projects. So we made it really easy to entice and encourage early adopters to begin populating it, because obviously when there's nothing on it, it's less enticing than when you come here and there's already a lot bustling, a lot happening. But we knew that we had set it ridiculously low, and obviously the standards need to reflect quality, and reflect something that's actually really valuable and meaningful. So we knew that once we got it started, we would need to calibrate things. And we always talked about this. I don't know how much everybody followed what we were saying, because there's so much built into this, right? There's so much we can talk about, but we certainly, talked a lot about how we've got a lot of tools. That was the point of the AI. The point was, that eventually the system would be able to see all of the behavior happening on the dApp and adjust all of these things, adjust what it takes to get to green, what it takes to get to purple. Those are actually function tools that I think will settle in and stay consistent. But we knew early on they would have to adjust. Even more so, what's being paid for the different green, purple, beige, what's being paid out was something that we knew would always be adjusting. And we really wanted AI to be able to do that eventually. Right now, obviously, we need to manually do it to even build that AI, to have it all dysfunction and run on its own. But yeah, so things have changed here early, because we're just a couple of months in, and it now takes 81 points to get to green. It takes 91 points to get to purple. And that's both for scouting and vetting. Today's calls for scouting. So we'll stay focused on that, but just know that those changes were made to increase the quality, of the data, to make the dApp more valuable to new people landing here, coming from ads and things that they see. They need to, to see really high quality stuff. Getting to purple should be challenging. It should be a really big deal. We had it fairly easy to do, and now at 91 points, it's a little bit more challenging to do. Now, the other day, and some of you were on the call, we did a call with voters. We started with voters. We've now done a call with voters, vetters, and today's scouts. We did a call with voters first because the integrity of voting, like the quality of voting, if voting is done very well, then the integrity of vetting and scouting is automatically going to be really, really good, because the voting is what dictates what somebody's color ranking is. And the color ranking reflects, if somebody has a historic track record of success, or of at least posting great content that's valuable in the case of vetters, or if somebody is red, for example, it's reflective of somebody who's still got a lot to learn about, how to pick projects. This is what makes this so valuable. So the voting is extremely important, and we're going to continue working with the voters to improve that process. But I wanted to get your guys' input, the scouts as well, about, anything and everything related to the scouting process. Before we open this up and start having this community dialogue, Phyllis, I just wanted to check in with you. Are you out there?
I am.
So Phyllis, is there a group of scouts? We talked about identifying a group as all-star scouts. I know most of our focus has been on vetters because that was a really challenging thing to, more challenging thing to put in place, to have integrity vetting, because it's more challenging to do. And then, voting, that was also something we really focused on. I don't know how much we focused on scouting yet, but I just wanted to ask, was there a group already put in place that are like the all-star voters that we would start getting input from, that maybe put extra time into thinking about all this already, or have we not gotten there yet?
We kind of got there, but not really, Mike, to be honest. I did identify who they are. I did set up the group for them, but the week I got sick is when I was going to start, kind of working with the scouts. So I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, okay.
But they should know who they are.
Well, let's start with those that know that they're all-star voters, or who have done an excessively a lot of scouting. I don't know if I just misspoke. I'll say that again. I don't know. I want to open this up first to those of you who, I want to be really clear. Those of you who know that you're an all-star scout, if you know that you're an all-star scout, I'd love to get your input first. And those of you who've just been scouting massively, like if you just really have gone for it and have been consistently doing it, maybe you haven't heard about the all-star scouts yet, but you've just done a lot of scouting. I'd love to get, your input as well. And then we'll open it up to everybody today that's done any scouting ever. And Phyllis, anything you want to say, or, that any concerns or thoughts, as we kick this off, as it relates to scouting?
Concerns, I wouldn't say they're concerns. I think that there's definite some, a lot of room for improvement in that area. And I think, having this type of meeting and getting input from the group is a starting point. So I think, I think that's something that needs to be looked at, because I would hate for someone to come on, even though, if a scout is putting a project out there that basically doesn't have any information, I mean, they will, of course they'll be voted down. But I think it makes it, and I don't want I think it takes away from the high caliber, what we're trying to actually put out there. So I think that needs to be addressed. And I think going forward, that's going to happen. So like, I just got one that I just not approved because it was totally empty. There wasn't not one stitch of information, on it, in regards to, comments, anything. And I think that we need to kind of just really focus in a little bit more on that, because we want to be able to make people look at us as we have investors looking at us, and we want to make sure that we're, giving them what they need. However, if not, they'll be downvoted, and I guess it'll take care of itself. But if we can.
So before we open this up for more input, you just said something that I think better be discussed and clarified. So the way this was designed, and quite frankly, it doesn't need to be implemented and executed, the way we intended it in every way, as long as it's valuable. The scouts and the voters and vetters, but today the scouts, can have a great deal to do with what we decide, in terms of what, I'll even say what you guys decide, that, on some of these topics. So for example, we originally set it up so that if a scout wanted to add additional notes, comments, positives, red flags, they could, but if they didn't want to, it wasn't a requirement. We can easily make it a requirement if that's what you guys decide you want it to be. But here's why I'm concerned about that. And so I'll just give my 2 cents on this and why we didn't design it that way. We designed this so that, and I'll go back to the calendar, just kind of underscore what I'm saying. We designed it so that first, at its most basic level, the calendar and the Better dApp would be an index, a highly organized index of all of the projects that are launching on a given day, week, or month coming up. Plain and simple, that's it. Because I found it really, really time consuming, and I know a lot of other people did too, to have to go to a million different places to get a really good index or really good list of projects that are launching, other than just going to a shitcoin place like DXL or something, and you're just inundated with just so much overwhelming bad projects. So the idea was, somewhat, I think people that are new to this get confused. So it's hard to articulate, because if we're talking to someone fairly new to this, and you might even be just a few months in and still quite new, it's hard to articulate what I mean by a decent project. Like, a decent project doesn't mean most of them are going to be successful. It's just a decent project is worth looking at. But even that language confuses people that are fairly new. It's like, well, this wasn't worth looking at. They just don't, so many people don't have a clue that it's going to take work to get rich. Even in a time like this, when it's so easy, it's still going to take work, which means you still have to do research. You still have to sift through a lot of oysters to find the pearls. That's always going to be the case. No matter how good a system is, there's still going to be an element of that. Now, I happen to think that we've created a model here that is just ridiculously effective at improving that process of knowing which oysters to open up in the first place, but it's still going to be work. So when I say things like, we wanted to create an index of decent projects, it's really hard, because I know a lot of people listening don't know what I mean by decent projects. Like, they want 1 out of 10 oysters that they open up within an hour to make them a ton of money. And it's just not realistic. I would be stoked if, like, if I just go to rank and hit purple only, and I go to, and if I like search for, a couple of different things, and I know this is loading slow, guys. There's things that we'll do, because there's just so much information in this thing that it's got to work through. But they're working on speeding that up. But if I search purple only, and I search, let's see here. If I just search purple only, and Jeremy, are you able to see my screen? By the way, because nothing's coming up right now. Do I just need to wait here a while, or am I doing something wrong?
Yeah, it's just some timing. It's just timing.
Yeah. So, can you kind of give us an update on this? Because I mean, this isn't working here. It's not coming up. Like, is this like, have you guys identified what can be done to make this usable again?
Hey, Mike, there's 2 purple check boxes. Check the other one.
Is that what I'm doing wrong?
Mine is working.
Oh, why? Yeah, why? Why
Check
is
the
there?
second one.
Why is
Check
there
the
two? Why is there 2 purple only?
There was an issue when we were making the adjustments to make royalties work. We temporarily had to add a second purple category. So it shouldn't be there at the moment. So we just missed that when we did the latest update.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
we'll get rid of that.
Okay, so it came up now. It did take a while. And just while everybody's here,
Mine loaded right away, just FYI.
it used to work really quickly. Was there something that was added in, like a feature that was added in that's caused it to have to work harder?
Like, I just logged in and it loaded right away.
Yeah, it depends on your connection, and it depends on how many people are trying to hit it at the same time at the moment.
Gotcha.
But we are working on the efficiency of it. So it will continue to get better.
Okay, cool. Okay.
We have lots of things
I think the problem was that, I had selected the first purple only. Just for people watching, just know that we just did a major update, and they meant to remove that first one. So that will be gone. There'll just be one only. But my point is, and I want to give context here, because Phyllis had said something, and I just want to make sure people fully understand like what the intention was, and then you guys about how to use this, what it was all designed to do, and then you guys can give input on it. Maybe you want to change some of those things. the whole idea, you know, it's hard, it takes a long time to discuss some of these things, because again, when I talk about, you know, we designed this to like significantly speed up the process to find the pearls, you know, the projects at 10x or whatever. I think some people sit down and they expect like every purple they click on to make them rich. And it's just such an unrealistic, you know, silly notion that that would ever be the case. It's just, we want to, you know, make it 100 times more time effective than just being out there on your own. And I believe that even as it is now, we've already made it significantly more efficient and effective than anything else. I certainly would be using it as my one-stop, you know, place. If I was just hitting the scene, this would have blown my mind. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable how much it speeds up time in finding the gems. But just understand, you're still gonna have to open up quite a few oysters to find the gems. You're still gonna wanna look at these. You're still gonna wanna have discussions, you know, with others about them, you know, and all of that. It's just putting in front of you the ones that are worth putting your time into researching. Anyway, the point was that this would be an incredible index. So for example, if I just open up this random one, Phyllis, it was designed where it would be okay if there was nothing in this box here, if there was nothing in this comments box, if there was nothing in the notes box, if there was nothing in the red flags box. Now, if those that take the extra time to do that, you know, those were the ones that we knew would build a bigger following and get more tips. Those would be the ones that would build a stronger reputation in the community, which can have all kinds of advantages, even beyond just tips. But sometimes you might be in a hurry, or maybe someone just wants to focus their time just on finding and indexing these and making sure they're represented on the calendar, and not fill this out and move faster. You know, maybe if they felt like they had to fill these things out, they just wouldn't have had time or wanted or had the notion. You know, maybe not good with language. They just don't feel comfortable writing, but they're really good at finding good projects. They also would build a following because people would start to realize, wow, this person doesn't give a lot of additional data, but they are consistently picking really good projects, more so than most. So they would also develop a good reputation. So I just want to be super clear that while you guys can discuss this and change this, this was originally designed where scouts weren't required, because we could require that, you know, people to add additional data. We didn't require all of those fields. We only required some of the fields so that at its base minimum, people would be able to see an index of decent projects, as I defined earlier, decent projects worth researching, all in one place, with the time that they're launching and everything. You know, that's doesn't exist, and it's extremely time saving in and of itself. Even if we didn't have color coded ranking, even if we didn't have the times, but just listed them saying these are coming up, you know, adding the times that they're launching and adding the putting it all in an organized calendar, then adding the color coded ranking on top of it, it's just insanely valuable. Even if there were no comments, no vetting, just an index. And we could have just created that and made our lives a lot easier. And that would have already been an unprecedented research tool. If we just had the name of the project, a link to their website, and the time it's launching, no color coded ranking, no comments, no vetting, no voting, no pay, you know, all this stuff that was so hard to develop. If that's all we did, just an index, that would have been better than anything else out there. But obviously we build a lot more into it on top of that. And so, you know, getting to that, yeah, if somebody wants to add, again, this was how it was intended to be designed. If somebody wants to add additional content to build you know, to provide more value, to maybe build a relationship with the community, to maybe let it be known what their concerns are, you know, you might get less aggressive downvoting if your project does poorly, if you take the extra time to share your insights, maybe share some concerns. You're going to build a stronger following. He's going to be more apt to aggressively upvote your winning projects, more apt to tip you if you take that extra time, provide that extra value. You know, so we made that an optional thing that a scout could do. And then the thought was vetters can come in and add a lot of additional information, right? Like this one was vetted. You know, they're the ones that, you know, if the scout had decided not to provide any additional information, it was the vetters that could come in and provide the really extensive additional information. So Phyllis, I'm curious about your thoughts on that, and then we can open this up. I just wanted to make sure that you and everyone knew that the way it was intended was scouts were not going to be required to provide the additional information, so that they could just create a really good index of events that are launching without having to worry about that extra work and time.
No, I understand. Me as an investor, just a personal opinion. If I'm looking at that, it looks like to me that I'm not sure I'm going to want to look any further if I'm looking at a blank page with just nothing on it, really. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying that it's, wrong, but I think for me, I don't.
We could have, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but we could make it where a person doesn't see empty boxes. And maybe it's that way now, though. Does it show an empty box if they don't put anything
It
in?
does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
still
does.
shows an empty box. Yeah.
Is there a way to make it where if it's empty, that just doesn't show the box?
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah. So Phyllis, would that make a difference?
That would, because what it looks like whoever the scout is, basically didn't take the time to even scout the project properly in my mind when I'm looking at it. That may not be the case because they did put the Telegram group in the website. But if I'm looking at empty boxes, it just makes me feel uncomfortable as an investor.
Well,
And I also, sorry,
I
Robin.
talked to Mike about this before, and what Mike mentioned to me, because I had said the same thing, Phyllis, and what Mike said to me was, but doesn't it make it more valuable when you see someone who scouts with that information filled? Doesn't it make you kind of lean in and want to search for them and look for people who kind of have it more together, who do the work? Like it kind of creates a little bit of contrast in a way.
No, I understand that. I'm just looking at it from, not even from an investor, but from a, what's the word?
dApp user.
Yeah, a dApp user just coming in and.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm looking at it, I'm saying, well, the quality must not be good.
That's what I said to Mike. Yeah.
So that's just my
See,
opinion.
I'm not sure that's an accurate, you might be right some of the time, but I'm not
Right.
sure that's always what's going on. I think the busiest
Right.
people who are the most efficient and effective at spotting the gems, they're very confident in their picks, but they don't have a lot of time. And so if we require this, I think you're going to get a lot less of those people bothering posting. Like, I'll just use myself as an example. If I find a project that I'm going to do and I'm interested in it, I'm not the type of person that would fill all of this out simply because I just don't have time.
That could be a video that we create that says like how to determine what makes a good scout post for the user.
Mike, you're looking at a vetter post. Click back and look at the scout post.
I know it's the same thing up here though. Yeah. In this case, because he filled this scout.
But what I'm suggesting is maybe we create, like we have those info videos, we create a video where, I could say like, you may see boxes that are not filled in, but that doesn't mean that the person who's scouting this is not someone worthy of checking out. Like we could actually state that so when people use.
I'm open to other input. I'll just say one last time, like, I do think if a box was blank, it would be ideal just not to show that a box existed, but if it's in an ideal situation, but
Hey, Mike.
I just wanted to point out, if all we had was this and the system didn't have anything else, no vetting, no opportunity for additional notes, this system would already be the most advanced research tool out there. Yeah, go ahead.
Mike, I noted in one of the videos that I did that, and I kind of just went back to your format, for what was in the Discord, that, let's take red flags, for instance, instead of it and it's just, my perspective, instead of the box not being there, what you had said originally was just don't leave it blank. So if there weren't any red flags, just state there weren't any red flags. And the positives, just they could state that, hey, there's no information that I've listed here. Just something that's stated in the box, to acknowledge at least that, that element of the scout report. Does that make sense? So I'm just going back to, what was said originally, when we started to learn how to, just put reports together, even in the Discord, instead of the boxes just not being there if they decided not to fill anything out. And that would also keep with the consistency across the platform in terms of when anybody looks at a report.
I mean, if we were going to do something like that, we could actually make it where if a box was empty, the system could say, no red flags reported this time. It could.
That's a good idea.
It could.
Yeah,
type
that's a great
something in
idea.
there automatically.
Yeah, I like that. If the system can just automatically input something, if they chose not to put it in there, that would also create consistency across the platform too.
Am I the only one who I'm having a hard time understanding, which doesn't mean anything in and of itself. I just want everyone to know I'm having a hard time understanding this part, like why this is an important thing, what we're discussing right now, but obviously it is. But
Like if
so
I'm a new
I want to
user,
continue getting more input just to understand, because this has come up before and I struggle to understand this part.
if I'm a new user and I come in for the first time and I just got a little bit of Vetter and I'm like, before I go to tier 3 or 4, I'm at tier 1, just checking it out, or tier 2, just checking it out, or tier 3, whatever. I'm maybe just checking it out. And I click around, and let's say I click on 3 different projects and they're all kind of like scouted with not a lot of information. What Phyllis and what I had shared like many weeks ago to you was, if I'm a new dApp user and I'm coming in and I'm seeing a scout post that doesn't require me to have to fill out a lot of info, it kind of seems a little shabby, where it's like, there's not a lot here for me. And you're saying that, this is a dApp that allows for information for me to understand what's going on. And, maybe I don't yet understand, maybe
again, it's the fact that a purple scout posted it that matters. Like,
okay. So maybe we have,
until I know someone's reputation, what they write means nothing to me.
that makes me want to create a bunch of video content about it.
Once I know their reputation, now I start really paying attention to what people are writing. I think it's important, particularly for people that are new to this process, to communicate, all of these things. And I often would, even though earlier I said I have a lot of it, I don't have a lot of time, I'm moving extremely fast. There would still be a lot of times I would provide additional information to provide that extra value, but I'm just saying there's some times where I may be in a hurry where I wouldn't. And I would, for me, that's not a negative reflection in any way. So and that's what I'm trying.
Okay, let me jump in again real quick. Mike. So one of the things I remember you were saying is that if somebody looks at a report, they would eventually get to a point where they know just kind of where to know to find that information. So if we, and I'm just being the devil's advocate here, if we start removing boxes, let's say somebody says, okay, I don't have to fill out all this stuff, but I can just put all my information in one box. Then I think for me, as somebody looking at the report, it makes it a little bit harder to find the information.
Hey, very good point. And Jeremy, let's note that. I think if somebody leaves a box blank, we shouldn't have the box disappear, because it does make it hard to know where your eyeball is supposed to go to find what you're looking for. It'd probably be better just to have a message saying, no information, no red flags reported at this time, or, put some standard message in there if it was blank, as opposed to having the box disappear. I agree with that.
Something like the scout has not reported, or
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but okay. I'm just going back to what you were saying. It makes me want to create more content so that people can see throughout the branding around like the importance of seeing a purple scout. Like,
Yeah, I think what I probably need to do is share another component here. There are two audiences of people out there. There's an audience of people who like the additional feedback and stuff. And again, I even very much would, once I know who that scout is, like it will mean a lot to me. And I might scan it anyway, but it becomes really valuable to me once I know, I followed somebody a little while on this platform. It means a lot less if I don't know who they are yet, but it's the beginning of the process of getting to know them, and it's still valuable. But there's another audience of people out there, maybe we decide we don't really want to acknowledge that audience and gear stuff around them. But it's just, I have them in mind because so far they're the main drivers of the whole industry in the market. And they're very technically minded. And words don't mean much to them. They assess stuff very quickly. And they just see, okay, it's launching here. Here's the website, and they're already gone on the website. Like they're going to be able to assess this. A lot of people are going to be able to assess this. The ones that make a lot of money in this market and that influence a lot of people, they're going to be able to assess this stuff just by going to the Telegram and the website very, very quickly. For them, especially before they know who you are, it's just our comments aren't going to mean anything to that group. They are so fast at assessing projects on their own and comfortable with their own process. So for them, just knowing when the project might be launching, that it exists, and the website and Telegram group is a huge, huge benefit to them. I just want to point that out, that there's kind of two audiences, and we definitely wanted to address both. It's just, if we require people to fill this out or create a culture where people feel like that's all we're looking for and everyone else is poo, I'm just concerned that, and maybe it's okay. Maybe we don't want the culture that's so common out there of the more technically minded people who don't use words well, and, often are overly crass or seem juvenile in their posts. Like there is a young, high IQ culture that's dominated this thing, that don't put a lot of weight on words and relationships and communication. And they just move very, very quickly. There's definitely a culture of that's predominant, which you'll see in most Telegram groups and stuff, heavily displayed. Maybe we decide that we're not, I wanted to set this up so that those that operate that way, that want to come here and don't really, trust other people's points of view, and they just want to have an index, knew that they could use it that way. And if they wanted to contribute to it that way, could do that without feeling, like they need to add a bunch of words and stuff, which they're totally not interested in doing. So anyway, I'll shut up on it now. But anyway, that's.
I just wanted to add to that voice, Mike, because I would be one of those people who is less likely to look at the information that was provided by someone else, because I want to go and look at the site. I want to, see some of that stuff for myself. It is nice though, to come back and like in the positives on that one, it says audited by Certic. Maybe I missed that. So
Right.
I think it is nice, but I do think it needs to be optional. I did make the note in the card, by the way, that we'll put in something to the effect of, this user has not added any red flags, so that at least the boxes aren't empty.
Yeah, I just wanted to, and Jeremy being technically minded, I wouldn't even put him in the camp I was just describing, though. Like Jeremy's technically minded, and he claims not to be good with words, but I mean, I don't agree. I think he's a really good communicator. But I think he understands what I'm saying probably more than maybe some people do, or relates to it more than what I'm saying, because he's probably hung out with that crowd more, being in the technical world. And Jeremy, do you kind of know what I mean, especially when I speak about the particular group that I'm talking about, which is even more niche within the BSC world, right? Like they rely on their own views, nobody else's, unless they really trust that person, and they rely on if this just being an index is all the value they need.
Yeah, I agree.
So I agree.
Especially
But I
once you
also
have
think-
launched projects, it's a little bit different when the projects aren't launched yet, because you can't just go look at the smart contract, but I wouldn't use anybody's words at all if the project was already launched, because I'd be going and looking at the code. I'd be looking at a lot of other factors. So, it's nice to have like I said, some of the words here are nice to see in case I missed something in my own
Right.
research. But I just like the idea that the project was indexed, like you mentioned, so that I know that it exists. I know what the days are that things are launching, and then I can do my own research. But so
And that goes in
I will say
alignment
just
with,
one thing, and then I promise I'll be quiet on this. I just feel like, gosh, there's pieces to this that I think I could, when I say stuff, like it could lead people to think something different than it's intended, because it's kind of nuanced, all of this. Or we're talking about like high level marketing stuff and all of this psychology and different audiences of people and meshing it all together. I just want to say that what I've said in no way should be taken to mean that it's not extremely valuable to add positives and comments and red flags and notes. Nothing I said should it all be taken to mean that it isn't very, very valuable to this platform to add words and explanations. That's not what I was saying. I was talking about a specific group of people that I didn't want to create a culture that alienated because they're a predominant influence in this market. So there is another market of people that this industry has alienated that we get to reach by adding additional explanations, by adding, more description. And it is extremely valuable for those that can take that time, that have that ability, and you will build a bigger audience and you will build a stronger following. And the people that appreciate that attribute are more loyal in general, and tend to be more apt to be the kinds of people who work within communities well. And so it will be very beneficial. And again, this is all marketing stuff, but it would be very, very beneficial for those willing to take the time, when they can take the time, to add the additional notes, because that's going to increase your tips, your following, and all kinds of things. So, and I just wanted to be clear that I wasn't,
yeah,
that wasn't the case. Go ahead.
that goes 100% in alignment with all of the investors, meaning the people who mainly buy Vetter because they're like, wow, this is a great project and I'm in it for the long run and I've never sold, blah, blah, blah. Like those people who message me, that's in alignment with all of them. So that makes complete sense in terms of what you're sharing, and the audience in terms of crypto enthusiasts, crypto investors, people who just get crypto or in crypto and are like, this is making my life a lot better, easier, faster to sort for the gems, everything that we established in the marketing from the get-go. So that totally is in alignment. I was just going to mention on the kind of foundational aspect, the conversation we were having, the first call we had around Telegram, like opening up the Telegram group and what that was going to be used for. I was just kind of going to plant a seed that what you shared was kind of in alignment with that. For example, like in the Telegram group, the big one, when we open it up, what if part of the conversation, we establish is, talking about how cool projects are, or the projects that do succeed from the scouts that are purple that post, or the scouts that post successful projects, even if they don't have additional data in the dApp. That could be a conversation that is highlighted in the Telegram to like discuss projects, even though.
I mean, the Telegram's not a very organized way to do it. So if there was a great discussion,
right,
it disappears in 3 minutes and everyone else misses it. That's the advantage of
the Discord.
And I wish we could,
right.
It would be, in an ideal world, we would allow a discussion to be right here. Right. But we know, scammers to take over, like, all kinds of nonsense will happen. And so we did the best we could to create an organized framework for community to, communicate and discuss a project through the ranking system, which is a really almost like a telepathic way of accomplishing it. And through, the notes and the comments and everything else, I think we did, the best we could do at capturing a community conversation about projects and having the cream float to the top through the ranking, without having to have a typical free-for-all social media discussion, which leads to scammers coming in or people with ulterior motives messing up the whole thing, right? which is what happens every single time in most of the groups where there's open conversation about these projects. Someone comes in with, pitching and scamming, or saying, oh, that's a scam, don't do it, which is maybe totally not true. Like, I don't know how many times, like Everrise market move, there were so many people telling us why it was a scam with all these technical explanations. And those were some of the most successful projects I was ever in. So it gets really hard when you just have an open free for all. I think this really encapsulates really, really well community discussion, but without getting into that mess that usually it gets into when you bring a lot of people together. So, okay, again, I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to open up the discussion. I said a lot to try to give a framework for what we intended to do and what we were considering, those two different audiences. Phyllis, I'd like to go back to you because, I feel like, you're definitely in the camp of, you really like to see the additional comments. And I think.
Well, let me just explain it so a little better, maybe. All right, I bought Vetter. I'm excited. I've never really got involved too much in any of the crypto space, but I've been told that this platform is, user friendly. I buy as many tiers as I can because I want to be able to look at all the information. And so I pull up something, and I may not be one that's going to put anything on a calendar yet because I'm just not comfortable with, I don't even know what scouting really is. What is it? How do I do it? I mean, I know what it does, but how do I really do it? And I'm not sure that's going to be for me, but I do want to take a look and see the information, that's available to me. So, because I'm learning that, this is a really great platform for somebody like myself. So I go and I go to the counter and I open up a project. I don't even have, I have no clue, what purple means or green means or any of that means right now. I'm just brand new coming to the site. And I go to the first thing I look at, and I go to a blank page. That's kind of, how, because I think, you're right. We do have other types of people that we're going to attract. It's not going to be, every person's that's going to come.
Now, when you say blank page, I get a little confused so I want a clarification on that.
Okay,
so
blank on the comments, sorry.
Okay, because this part wouldn't be blank, correct?
No, I know, that is correct. But if I go here and I'm brand new and I'm like, okay, and I'm really trying to understand what all this means, but it's just like when you're on a website and you want to read a little something, about a product that you're buying.
I just want to point out that the website and the Telegram is where they do that.
I know.
Like,
I
mean, the way I'm hearing it almost sounds like it would be better if they just didn't even see, like, we didn't even have this extra.
I don't know. I like to hear other people's input on it. Honestly, I mean, it's just I'm just looking at it from, I guess I have such a Vetter hat too. If I'm looking at something and I'm looking at a project, I want to see something. So can we get some other input from everyone? I don't want to persuade anybody in any way.
Yeah,
I like to.
Phyllis, I'm with you. I am with you. And even when I got into this, the value of it to me was what I could see in the reports. So not having the report there, or somebody not putting stuff in there. And I get where Mike's coming from, that there absolutely is that audience that they don't really care about, what's in the positive, the red flags, comments, and so forth. And they're just looking for, where can I go ahead and find the website and the Telegram? I get that completely. But when you have this calendar and app set up the way it is, it's to meet a number of different types of groups of people. And I don't know, I think for somebody new to this space, they're gonna want to see what we said. And we know that we are going to be onboarding a lot of new people. I mean, I thought that was kind of the vision of this, was that, we want to protect a lot of the new people. We know that, because of all the rug pulls, the scams, the honeypots, that there are so many people getting taken advantage of. And so one of the benefits of coming to our platform is that they can see all this information, and that helps to mitigate and minimize the likeliness of experiencing all of that. So I get where Mike's coming from, but for me personally, I think that the big draw and the big, benefit, for our platform is the fact that there is all the information in the scouting reports, and there's all the information in the vetting reports. So that's just my piece on it.
So I'm really clear. So are you proposing and this is for both, that's Dan, right, speaking?
Yeah, that's the end.
And Phyllis, are you guys both proposing that these are required fields?
Well, just like we were talking about before, if somebody didn't have information to add to the policy and they didn't put it there. Okay, yes, I loved your idea about how, you could, situate it, where the dApp would automatically just put, a preset, phrase in there. Again, we know that the way that the template's set up, so that, as people go ahead and follow people, they know where the information they want to look at is found. But obviously, if you're new, I mean, you're not, you don't have that history, but this helps to kind of also teach people that this is where this information is, this is where this information is, etc. So I'm not saying that it's required, but
okay. So you're saying like under positives here, it could say something just automatically if they didn't post anything. You're just suggesting. So I'll restate what you said and tell me if I got this right. You're saying you think that the culture of the group should be, the message that scouts here is you really should try to add this additional value because that's what makes this dApp so valuable and sets it apart, or at least it's one of the things. But if you don't want to, you're saying you could leave it blank. It's still optional, but it would say something here. So it's not just a big blank box. It would say something like, no additional notes or no additional comments were shared in this section or something like that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Phyllis, how about you? Do you want it to be, are you proposing that it's required that they fill in the box, or are you saying basically the same thing that Dan's saying there?
I'm basically saying the same thing. I would, and I want to hear other people only because I get this comment to me all the time from the community. So I just want to.
Yeah, no, I do too. I just want to make sure I understood exactly what you guys were saying, that we could,
Yeah.
we could,
And what happens,
actionable.
and what happens too is like as a vetter, I mean, honestly, you wind up going in and doing all the work because you go in and you're dissecting everything and then you're putting everything in this anyway,
Right.
You are. I mean, basically, that's what if you're a good vetter, you're going to go in. So I'm going to be going in there and doing the scouts work, so to speak. If because there's no information there, so because I want to make sure that the investor can get the information that they need. Not saying that I'm right or wrong, but I'm just putting it out there.
Right.
And I get questioned all the time from like people like, should this be allowed? This shouldn't be allowed. Why are we letting this? It's cheaping it. It's making us look cheap, that kind of thing. And so I wanted to just.
I do just want to point out, anyone saying that has clearly no experience in the market.
No, I know, but unfortunately, there's all walks of life that we're going to attract. Right now, we're only, we have 1,000 people or so on the dApp. You know what I mean? And there's going to be so many other people coming in. So
I just want to be careful from a cultural perspective that we don't attract a disproportionate amount of difficult people.
No, I totally get that.
I do, and the rest of the market doesn't have to deal with any of that because they don't even pay any attention. So the next question, Phyllis, is if we do it the way Dan and I were talking about, where it could be left blank, but if it is, when someone lands here, it has a note there just stating something so that it doesn't look like a blank box.
Yeah, I mean, I think that.
Well, my question is that going to change that though, or are those people still going to come in and say this looks cheap?
Who knows what people are going to think.
Right. I just wonder how that addresses their.
I don't know whether having one sentence in something or leaving it blank. I don't know what's worse. You know what I mean? So
I just wonder if it's an opportunity to educate those that, when it does come up on calls. I don't think one-on-one we should be, addressing too much of this kind of stuff anybody. But anyway, when that comes up, I wonder if it's just be educational, saying first, the first thing to this is it's simply an index. The second point of value is, and these are the people you can follow, is those that want to provide additional information can. And if you're not interested in the other ones, then you just start searching and following those that you do like. That's the point of all of this.
I gotcha.
This is Jesse, can I interject?
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with you that it should be left as an option for the scouts because like I do add when I scout, right? I take that option and I add, but I feel that it's almost bleeding into vetting as a scout.
Right.
I feel that it's
Right.
taking away from the value when someone vets.
Right.
Right. You get your basic information and realistically, the majority of people are putting something in.
Yeah,
Right.
that was my concern too. Like initially we almost, because of that reason, because it does bleed into vetting and makes it a little bit more confusing on what's vetting, what's scouting. We almost just didn't have this at all. And then like if something was vetted, that's where you'd get it. But then we thought, well, if a scout wants to add the additional information, to the point of what they feel capable of, why not let them? So we decided to do it. But I had the same concern.
Well, exactly. Like myself personally, I've just been doing scouting, but I have been considering vetting, and I went to some of the mentorship Zoom calls and whatnot. And that could be like a transitional period where you're scouting and you start putting more and more information in until you're comfortable with throwing your hat in the ring as a better.
Right.
But I don't think that it should be a mandatory thing to
Are
add
you
to
in
the
agreement?
to the fields.
Are you in agreement with what we were talking about, where it would be better though if it wasn't a blank box, just for
As long as it's not misleading, right? Like to
I
say
mean-
that there's no red flags is not really correct. And to say
No,
that the
no,
scout didn't find no red flags is really,
Yeah, no, it would probably say,
Yeah.
the scout did not post any
Yeah.
comments in this section or something like that.
yeah.
It'd
And
say
because,
no red flags reported by this user.
yeah, because you don't want to say and have it being, even though it's worded properly, someone mistakenly saying, oh, this one has no red flags.
I mean,
And it has
yeah,
to say
could-
by this user because there
Yeah.
might be red flags under the
Exactly,
better information.
exactly, right?
yeah, we might want to say like, check to see if this project was vetted, for, additional notes from others or something.
Well, the
We're-
fact is that it's a research tool and everyone in crypto has to do their own research, right? So,
But ultimately you're in agreement that where we're at with it is a good solution. What Dan and Phyllis kind of helped us come up with.
yeah, I agreed with it right from the start when
Okay, just wanna make sure.
when it was made optional from the beginning, and then the vetter comes in and adds that massive value.
But
Right.
but I think the extra point that Dan and Phyllis are making, and I just want to get clarification from you. Are you, even though you've expressed concern like I had about it bleeding into the vetting process, ultimately, are you at the same conclusion where we should encourage scouts to add that additional insight, though it's not required? Like that's kind of
Oh,
the message,
Absolutely. I think that the majority are already doing it.
right?
And if there's like a, not mandatory, but a strong emphasis on doing it, that's fine.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, sounds good. Thanks for that, Jesse.
Yep.
And anyone who's raised their hand, go ahead and just unmute yourself and chime in.
Mike, this is Orest.
Hey, Orest.
And if you would go back onto your search, you put purple only. Well, go to the funnel and put scouted.
Do you want purple
then-
only still selected?
Yes, purple still selected, and then go over to the funnel and say scouted.
Okay, scouted projects only. Isn't this
Right.
awesome? Like this tool's crazy. This is
What is? And the thing is that when you go through, like I want to become a better scout. And therefore what I do is I go to this area and I look through this. When I look through January and budding into February, there are only 2 purple scouts that posted items that did not have at least a little bit of additional information. Some had a whole lot, but click on one of them and just,
Right,
and you'll see
right.
that they're putting a minimal amount, just enough to saying, hey, yeah, look, this is why this person scouted and said this was good to put up here.
Absolutely.
And when you look at a minimal amount put in, as opposed to nothing, I
Yeah.
would think that, I mean, if you look, and I mean, you'll find the several people because there is a duplicate project on the 20th and on the 3rd, and there's no information as to why it's sitting in 2 places. And Whereas if there was additional comments somewhere in there, we may find out why it was in two places, and therefore it maybe assist that person because they're a purple scout.
It might be the same project with multiple dates added. It will show up on the calendar at the various dates.
Yeah, so everyone follows that. I think most know that, but it is a nuanced thing. Let me repeat. One project can show up on the calendar many times if somebody has posted many different types of dates and events associated with that same project. For example, someone might have posted that that project has a private sale at such and such day and time, but it has the pre-sale or the actual pre-sale is launching at a different date and time. And then there's the launch onto PancakeSwap at a different date and time. So in those cases, you're going to see the same project on the calendar more than once because there's different events with different times and dates associated with that project. Just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that.
Mike, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that in the past there was a problem with, repeat projects being on the dApp, and that was supposed to have been, put to a stop. I have a project that's launching today that I had started scouting on the 6th, and we're just getting additional information for it. When I went to go and post it yesterday, someone else had already came in and put the project on the dApp, and I thought that was supposed to be like stopped. That they couldn't do that once you save it in the drafts.
No, it's once it's posted. If you just save it as a draft, anybody else can still come in.
The reason why we discussed that pretty extensively, the reason why you can't just save something in a draft and have that kind of save that project for you is because we knew, again, we thought about behavior a lot with this, of course, and we knew that there would be a certain group of people that would just get in the habit of posting a ton of projects,
right.
And then saving them and then never getting around to finishing it. And it would block those from ever getting to the calendar, unfortunately.
All right, I understand. No problem.
Yeah, it's tough making decisions on some of these things because, there's pros and cons both ways, but ultimately that would have been a more detrimental, I think, impact.
Yeah, I was just trying to gather more information for my post.
I know. It's tough because a lot of times, those that are using it properly, are actually adding more value. But the problem is other people come in who may not have that same intention.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Let me just add one thing while it's on my mind. What about there's what I see a lot as well, and I just wanted to get feedback on it, is I see a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but I do see it where someone goes in and they, post a scout, they unrank a scout project, and then what they do is, they rank a scout project, they go in and they put minimal information. No, I'm getting backwards. They unrank a project. There's minimal information, and then they immediately assume it. I'm not sure what's the benefit of that. Can you help me understand that? Is there something that I'm missing?
There's really not a benefit to that because somebody else could assume it instead of them if they just posted unranked.
Mike, you know what? It's actually a really good strategy.
It is. I know.
No, I'm going to explain why they do it. Who was just speaking a moment ago about having saved a draft?
That was Maurice.
That was Maurice.
Maurice.
Yes.
So Maurice, instead of having saved the draft, you could have posted the project unranked really fast.
Okay.
Locked it into the calendar. If it ended up being a bad project, it wouldn't have hurt your rank. And then do more research and then come back and assumed the project. Now doing that, you're at risk of someone coming in and assuming it for you.
Right.
But you have a higher chance, I think, of locking it in and being able to come in and assume it yourself. I'm assuming that that's why people do that, is they're wanting to lock it in, but they haven't done enough research to know if they want to risk their rank on it.
Mike, I had one where I did that, or maybe it was more than one, but in my case, it was because I forgot to rank it. And so then I realized it after I posted it, and then I had to go back and change it. So, and I
Gotcha.
think, and that was early on. Now I think it's just automatically where they're just ranked, but I had to say, I
It
had a couple
defaults to
projects like that.
ranked now. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was back before we defaulted it to ranked, I
Yeah,
assume.
there was a time where you were sometimes just defaulting to unranked, and then if you noticed it, you had to grab it up right away. Like I had a few people private message me and say,
Exactly.
did you mean to post that unranked? Because if you
Right.
did, I'm taking it. And I was like, no, what do you mean? So I think
Right.
that bug's been fixed though.
Yeah, it has. And I was going to say the same strategy could be used, Mike. I guess you're right. If they don't know for sure if they want to be ranked on it yet, because they haven't done the research, but if they know it's one that they want, they could just post it and then go back and add the details. Like you don't have to have all the details to post it because those fields are optional. So if you just want to make sure that you're ranked on the project, you can post it without the notes and comments and then come back and fill those in. You don't have to pay to post it again. You can make saved changes at no
Right.
gas cost.
That's
So,
right.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'll do with some of mine is I'll just go ahead and get the information in there real quickly. And if I don't have enough, I'll just say, I'll be updating the section, and then I get it posted, and then right away I will start to go ahead and add that information. But yeah, because we've seen many instances where people will have their project, scooped up basically because they were focused so much on trying to provide a more complete posting before they posted it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everybody's input. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. And Phyllis, I hope I didn't cut you off there earlier.
No, not at all. I just, I'm reading some things in the box, and I get asked that question a lot, and I wanted to put it out there because I wanted to hear some of the responses.
Right. Is there anything else coming up or more?
No. That's someone just put in the chat box. I do it myself too as a placeholder.
Mhm.
I hope people don't assume it before the info is out that I need for a decision. So I was just curious because I get asked that sometimes, and I just was curious on what the answers were to the question.
But by the way, guys, I know a lot of you already know this, but some of you may not. One of the reasons why we lowered what we're paying right now. Well, first of all, we were paying an exuberant amount for voting, and a lot of people were kind of abusing that. Not everybody, but there was a group. And so, we definitely needed to reel that in a little bit, and measures are being taken. But while we're reeling it in, we wanted to lower it. And same thing with vetting. We're just, less people gaming the system there, but there are differences between some people vetting with high quality and some people just going through the motions. So while we're reining kind of that, identifying that and quantifying what is a really good vetting post versus maybe not, we wanted to just kind of rein that in while we're getting that figured out. And then scouts, we lowered a lot of them except for purple. I think we increased that, didn't we, Jeremy? Purple.
yeah, I think that one went up like double.
Yeah. When people get to green, they're getting into royalty reflections, which is a really significant reward in and of itself. But on top of all this, so there's a lot of incentive for that. But of course, then getting to purple would be an additional incentive, so people don't just stop and hang out at royalty reflections if purple didn't have enough incentive. So there does need to be a good incentive there, and 500 vetter is a good incentive that might go up. Right now we kind of just calmed everything down in terms of what's going out so that we can increase accountability and really make sure that the people that are doing a great job in all these different areas are getting compensated even more than they've been. And then those that aren't, really adding value, they've just been like going through the motions or doing the least they could do, or in some cases outright gaming the system, inappropriately, are identified and, getting paid less or nothing because they're not adding value. So we're just going through that process. I just wanted to say that in all of these cases, we are looking at ways to reward, the stellar participants. And, we're talking with the voters about that, the vetters about that. I just want you to know, that's going to be another call with you guys at some point soon too, about how we can go about doing that. So for example, the royalty reflections is a pretty big incentive to get somebody started with the scouting process. And now that we're putting a stronger, have been and will continue tightening the screws on a really solid process for auditing scout posts with the voters, it's going to be, harder and harder for anyone to slip through the cracks. They're going to have to really be adding value to get to green. It's one of the reasons why we made it harder to get to green too, 81 points now instead of 58 points, to give the voters more time to catch people gaming the system so someone can't slip in and get a royalty reflections, which takes away from everybody else if they didn't actually earn it. So it's, now it's 81 points instead of 58 points to get to green. That was one of the reasons for that as well. To again, make sure we're rewarding the people even more, compensating them more who are doing things right, and trying to sift out and remove those that do things in a way that, just hurt the system and take from everybody else, but don't give value. That's what all this is about. And what I'm trying to get at also, though, is we will look at more and more ways that we can compensate even more those that are doing a stellar job. And we're doing that with voters, vetters, and we're going to be doing that with scouts as well. I just want you guys to know that scouts and voters are compensated out of the participatory pool. Vetters are compensated out of the vetter pool. We do have, there was one event that was intended to come from, there was an event of voting on scout posts. So those that are voting on scout posts, that event was supposed to be paid from the participatory pool, but it's been coming out of the vetter pool. But we're able to see what that is and compensate for that, so that what I said is still true. That, and I'll say it again so it's clear, the participatory pool and the taxes that fund that pool is what compensates voters and scouts ultimately. And vetter activity, what vetters are doing to add value to the project, that's compensating vetters from the vetter pool. And what I'd said to the vetters in yesterday's call, maybe some of you were on that because you're vetters, that vetters ultimately decide what happens with that pool. Now, there is a foundation called Block Unity Foundation that does have the ability to trump a decision right now. If a decision was made that could destroy the whole model, but I can't imagine that ever happening. I just want to be super clear on everything. So for example, if vetters got together, and I can't imagine a situation where this would happen, but I just want people to know how it's set up. If vetters got together and said, we want to drain the vetter pool and we're out, and they're not going to do anything, the foundation could come in and override that. But again, I can't imagine that, conceive of that possibility happening, because the vetters are obviously the biggest collaborators. They're the ones that most likely want to see this win. So with that one caveat expressed, just know, I'd said to the vetters that they decide ultimately how those resources in the vetter pool are compensated out. They decide what the qualifiers are to be to remain a vetter and to remain getting compensated for that pool. And other than, draining the pool outright and, destroying the project, which the foundation wouldn't allow, obviously. Other than that, highly unlikely even attempt at such a thing, the vetters have ultimate control of how the vetter pool compensates vetters. And I'm saying that because I want you to know that scouts and voters will have the same decisions over the participatory pool. And so we're going to get into that in other discussions, but, scouts are going to get to decide ultimately, what is paid at the different levels. And they're going to get to decide ultimately, again, and that has to merge with what voters are getting paid too. So there's that caveat, but because it's coming from the participatory pool for both scouts and voters. And scouts are going to get to decide, what decides, what qualifies a scout as like an all-star scout. I think it should be, one step beyond purple. Like, it's those that are going the extra mile. It's those that are attending calls like this and contributing. It's those that really are contributing to the long-term success of the project and improving its efficacy and stuff. But ultimately, you guys will get to decide that, and we'll guide that conversation until there's a framework and you know, and support that. But ultimately, you guys will get to decide those things and be in, you know, control of the destiny of the scouts. So this is the beginning of all that. I just wanted to mention that.
Just as a point of clarity, Mike,
Yeah.
the participatory was for scouts and votes on a scout post or votes on a vote on a scout post. And then the vetter pool is vetting votes on a vetter and votes on the vote of a vetter. So the voting kind of hits both pools, but like you said, the one is pulling from the wrong place. But that was the intention, was
Yeah,
that
gotcha.
votes
Thanks for
on
that.
scout posts come
That's
from
true.
participatory, votes on vetter posts were supposed to come from the vetter pool. So I just want to clarify that.
Gotcha. Yeah, thanks for that. So, you know, that'll be you know, we can have a separate discussion as we move towards identifying, you know, what is an all-star scout. Phyllis, you know, I'll let you kind of lead that up. You know, I know you started that process, you know, and then from there, once that group, the initial group is identified, then it can set up, you know, the discussion and, you know, continue that. You know, do they want to let more in? What would that look like?
Right.
So, I mean, that's all I have for today, guys. But again, I want to make sure we hear from everybody. Obviously, this is one of the first ones that we've had, you know, for quality assurance and to start this process of working closely together to improve the efficacy of scouting. Again, voting on scout posts obviously has a lot to do with that. And I'm sure some of you are involved with that as well. That's going to have a huge impact on the efficacy of scouting. And it was designed to, and I believe it's going to be highly, highly effective at making sure that the scout posts and the color ranking is reflective of the quality being posted, you know, consistently. Does anybody have any questions or any input or any additional insights before we close out today? Just, you know, anything about scouting at all?
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank y'all for, you know, putting together this whole project. And I also want to thank you for putting a great leader in charge of, you know, handling the veterans, scouts, and the voters. And Phyllis, she's doing a wonderful and amazing job.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Thank you, Maurice. I'll pay you later. Want it better or B&B?
Funny.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Aleem. I just wanted to make one other comment I haven't heard is that the people who are scouting, you know, they only reap any benefit when they get a vote, and the ones who choose not to post any comments are probably going to get fewer votes. But
Yeah,
it's really ultimately the scout's choice. If they want to try to go for quantity and just post a lot of them and not bother with any comments, then so be it.
Right. I mean, that was always my thought as well. And it sounds like we're basically arriving there. I think the message that Dan and Phyllis and a few others may have chimed in on was just that I didn't make a distinction of today. I think they were saying, let's encourage, and I think we have been, and they want to continue to encourage scouts to take that extra effort, and pointing out what you just pointed out could be part of that encouragement, right? Just pointing that fact out that you just mentioned.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Regarding the color ranks, does the points that decide what rank you are go up? Like, for example, I hit green rank for scouting, and then a few days later, I was down to beige. I don't believe I received any downvotes because the points stayed the same.
Yeah, so when we first launched this, we just wanted to create as much engagement as we could and get people involved. So we made it really easy to get to green. It only took 58 points to get to green and 81 points to get to purple originally, which was super easy, a really low bar. But we just wanted, you know, it's hard when nobody's using the platform yet. We just launch it, you know, for people to, you know, see reaching certain things, and there's a royalty reflections for green. So to get the whole process started and start populating it, you know, we built in a lot of really awesome incentives, and obviously it worked because it was a massive success in that regard. you know, then as, you know, we saw how, we knew it would always be like this and we'd have to correct course, but we saw how we were watching and monitoring how many people are gaming the system, how many people are kind of gaming the system, but maybe it's not like, you know, a huge infraction, but it's not good for the system, that we changes we need to make. And then there was a group of people that were just gaming it like in a really bad way, with no regard to how, you know, the harm it might do to the community, and they're just taking better where they can. So we had to make all these adjustments to correct all that. Part of that was, and we always knew we needed to do this, was making it so that it was not so easy to get to green and get into royalty reflections, to game the system and just get in there so easy, which takes from the people who, you know, really work hard. And so part of that process was making it take 81 points to get to green instead of 58, which gives the voters more time to catch the people gaming the system. And then making it so it takes 91 points to get to purple instead of 81 points. And so that's what you're seeing there. And I don't foresee that changing, you know, just suddenly again. It's just part of this early process. And, you know, we set it up the way we did to reward early adopters. If you were at green or higher, you're already in the contract and will get royalty reflections, even if you drop down to beige right now. But that's why we made that adjustment, and we always knew we would need to. And I expected us to do it much sooner, but there was just so much going on and so much to do. And then I took a vacation, so we hadn't discussed it, and we finally got around to it after meeting with the voters, you know, this week.
I'd like to follow up that. I'm not sure if it's because of the change or if he's just asking about, is there a way to know if he was downvoted on? So was your scenario just that recently all of a sudden you noticed that your color changed, or were you saying that was even before we made that change, you dropped down?
Oh yeah, clearly there was a change. I got onto the dApp and the whole platform was edited.
Got it.
I mean,
Okay.
I like the updates. It looks beautiful. And I figured that would have to happen because I honestly thought getting to green was a bit too easy myself.
Right.
The only reason I asked is because I wanted to make sure everybody knew that now in your profile area, you can actually see your incoming votes. So if there was a question about, was there a down vote and I didn't know, you know, if it happens moving forward, I just want people to know that in your profile now, you can actually see any votes you've made, or within the, I think it defaults to received, and within the 3 dots. Can you go to the profile real quick, Mike? You might not have votes, but you can see the section. So if you go down to the votes section, scroll down a little bit or click. Yeah. So you see how there's 3 dots to the right. So it defaults to received. You can also see the votes that you've sent. So this details out all of the votes that you've received on your project. So you can see if there were down votes, et cetera, just so everybody knows.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, if it was a down vote, it will be anonymous who did it, right?
Correct. Even here, it'll be anonymous.
Yeah.
But under that 3 dots, you can also see any votes that you've made, just so everybody knows.
Is the anonymous part of the update? Because previously you could go into a project and see who downvoted it.
It wasn't part of the recent update. It was the last update. We made it anonymous.
Okay.
So it wasn't too long ago.
Jeremy, are we going to hold a session to go over all these changes with the community soon, or what were your thoughts on that?
That's a good point. I was going to ask the same thing.
Yeah, that was part of the plan. It got in the schedule a little bit later, where we started talking about all the various sections, because we had, you know, all these meetings came up as slightly higher priority than just walking through the app. But yeah, we definitely want to walk through the dashboard, all the new areas of the profile, et cetera, sometime soon.
Do you agree we should probably schedule something this coming week to go over all the new updates?
We could. I thought you had one on the very last meeting that you set up was for a bi-weekly, let's talk about the app meeting. But
yeah, I mean, I think that was to start at the very beginning again and break it up in little pieces. But I think for everybody that's out there now, you know, it would be a huge value for them to see an update sooner than that, probably.
Sure. Yeah, I'm open to having one soon.
Okay, cool. Anybody else, any questions, input, insights before we close out?
Yeah, hi, Mike, Sebastian.
Yeah,
You
go
hear
ahead,
me?
Sebastian. Yeah, hey.
Hi guys. I've been with you guys since the beginning, but always kind of on a distance. And I've tried to scout a few projects a couple of weeks ago, and my issue was somehow to where do I find a tutorial or like more security in going into it, which kind of challenged with the question of before. You know, what is this? There's the updates coming up, but it's I've found it difficult to find the videos or the information. Maybe I'm missing something, so it might interest people on a broader interest.
Well, just so
And
you
what
know,
is planned on that on the tutorial side?
yeah, just so you know, the video vault will have that soon. That's like the last piece
Okay.
because it's a huge, huge, huge piece. We wanted to get everything in place so that we didn't make videos and then the dashboard changes and now we got to update all those videos, right? Like, so it's the last
Sure.
piece. But in the meantime, we've kind of been doing a shoot at the hip, you know, version of all of that as things are changing. And you'll find that at vetter.ai, and you go to get started. And, you know, this is just like an introduction. If you go to see demo right here, this little button right here, I'm looking for the one. I don't know if we have one specifically on just scouting or if it's packed into one of these. So let me look at this really quick. Connect wallet and access dApp, inside walkthrough of Vetter platform. So what I'm not remembering is it packed into this one or do I have one specific? Let me keep going here. How to post a project in the calendar. So this one I think is the one you're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've gone through it. And that's the main thing. And then there might be the group, right? The 100x group. Or am I going too far if I try to find scouting?
I mean, I think this is the only video that this is the only video I'm aware of at this time that walks you step by step through, you know, posting a project as a scout.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
all right. Yeah, because
are you more
many
asking,
newbies coming
Sebastian,
in.
how to find them to post? Is that what you're asking?
Well, it's more of I'm thinking I've been there in a while, but I haven't done the effort I probably would have needed. But there's many newbies coming in and who want to know, okay, what does scouting really mean, and where to get started? How do I find information in the PDF or dedicated place? I'm kind of seeing from that perspective also.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, the video library is going to you know, really organize all that. That's obviously a huge project. So we're still working on that. It's the last piece. But let me show you something else. I mean, this is something older that I did for newbies, and this isn't connected to Vetter per se, but it might be a resource. If you go to I just posted all on my blog as I was going so fast, MikeKlingler.com. And it says right here, if you're new to crypto pre-sales, you know, get the pre-sale strategy class. For newbies, well, this one costs money. There's a free one. Robin, do you happen to remember the domain name of the free class that I did?
Free.
All the free stuff on.
It's.
Oh, here it is. This isn't the actual address though. CryptoLaunchpad.mykajabi. I mean, this isn't the actual address.
I think if you enter your email, you'll get it on the next page.
Right.
I can.
Well, so I was maybe thinking of, you know, newbie scout. Well, we're not a total newbie. Not that we get a confusion here now, but then I'm
That's
in
more
on the
of like a
platform. I start,
strategy.
and then I want
this
pass
is
from passive to active member.
This is teaching a newbie scout. You know, it was designed before Vetter existed, but it's teaching people like a newbie scout how to find projects. If you already know where to find crypto projects, I don't know what else. You wouldn't need anything other than this video right here. Like if you know how to find projects, then this shows you how to post a project on a calendar. That would be all you'd need. It's not overly complicated.
No, you know, oh yeah, and about doing well done posts, which chimes into the discussion we've had earlier. That information is available also. I mean, to have the scouting done so that it's done. Well, there was a discussion about that one entry before, the one box. That's more detailed aspect.
Yeah, I mean, if you went through this and you posted a project on the calendar, you know, then if I were you, I would go to the Vetter support group and say, hey guys, I just posted my first project on the calendar. Does somebody want to give me some feedback? So I think that would be, you know, for the additional getting to that next level of really knowing how to improve something, I think that would give you a great feedback. And you would, I think all the resources are here are definitely for a newbie to start and become quite good at it.
Yeah, it's a way to become part of the community also.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of just looking at the PDF, okay. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great job, guys.
Yeah, thank you. All right, guys. Well, thanks for your time, for being here. Thanks for all of your contributions to the Vetter dApp. Obviously, we're just getting started. It's very young, but it's coming together extraordinarily well. Our focus is, or was, to get the dApp figured out, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of discussions on all the possible things that we're going to need and all the things that could come up once you bring a giant group of people together, anticipating all the ways people might try to kind of game the system and all these tools that we could use to calibrate this, to get it right where we wanted it to be, to make it a really effective tool for, finding these projects that are launching for the first time, making it adaptable so that, if you go to network, you see that, it's starting to get populated for all these different different networks, not just the Binance Smart Chain. So, that was the focus. Now that the dApp is really solid, one of the next steps is going to be this video vault. That's going to be a work in progress, helping newbies really learn how to use DeFi, helping people learn how to use this dApp. In the meantime, we've got that other section that I just showed, or it pretty much walks through all the main things. We'll do another session next week to go over the new upgrades to the dApp. But again, thanks guys for your time today and for helping make this, everything it can be. Super exciting, and looking forward to taking this to the next level. We will start marketing this month, and we got a call scheduled on the calendar where we're going to go over all that in detail. All right, guys, thanks again, and appreciate your input. Very, very helpful today. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Hey, thanks, Mike.
Mike, thanks, Phyllis.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
Okay.